Hello and welcome to another episode of Geared Toward Gear. My name is Sean and I'm so glad you're here. Today we're taking a look at a knife from Kizer. It is the Velox or Velox 2. I don't know how you say that, to be honest with you. But that's what we're looking at. I'm going to call it the Velox. The Velox 2 from Kizer. So this was provided to the Valtac Pass-Around Group by Valtac Tactical Gear. So thank you, Valtac, for that. I do appreciate it. It's been an interesting one for me to check out. So let's kind of do the short version as we typically do. We're looking at G10 handles, VG10 steel. You thought I was going to say D2, didn't you? No, this is not D2. This is G10 and VG10, which I really like VG10 steel. So G10 and VG10, that's kind of hard to say quickly. It's a flipper design. It's got an overall length of 7.75 inches. Comes in at just over 4 ounces. It's going to be for tip-up carry, right or left-handed. And the price tag on this guy is $77. So let's get our size comparisons in. Let's take a look at the big guys first. So here's a PM2 in comparison and a mini grip Tillion. So right between the two, medium-sized knife if you ask me. And we'll bring in our Ontarios, our Rat Model 1. And if you don't own a Rat 1 or Rat 2, you're living your life all wrong. Just buy one of each. They're fantastic. Even an Aus 8, I think they're great. You can get them in D2 also. Again, we're kind of right between the two. So the Velox or Velox 2 is for sure a medium-sized knife. So let's talk about the blade a little bit. It is a drop point design. It is in VG10 steel, as I mentioned. It's got the slightest of recurve to it. If you can see that shape there, it's just got a bit of a recurve to the blade. It's got this nice swedge that comes down, a really nicely done satin finish. Looks phenomenal, so very well executed on the blade. And we'll see here the markings. We've got Kizer, VG10, and on the spine here, we'll see Michael Vagnino's last name, who is the designer of this knife. So that's what we're talking about as far as the blade. The handle on this guy is 4.375 inches in length. Made from G10, and it is a bi-layer G10. So you've got the tan color underneath, the black on top, and then the milling, which exposes that underneath color. Gives it some additional texture, and the texture is really nice on this. Really well done as far as the G10 is concerned. The one complaint I do have about the G10 and just the handle in general is that it's all kind of squared off. So there's no kind of chamfering on the G10. So it's all just kind of 90-degree angles, which is not the most pleasant thing in the world, but it is what it is. It does come in a couple different colors. There's, I believe, a green version of this, and maybe even one that's all black. I'm not entirely positive, but there's the kind of bi-layer G10. We've got stainless steel hardware. It is not fully recessed, which who cares? We got our little barrel spacers or our standoffs there, so it's a flow-through design. And we've got stainless steel liners that are non-nested. It is a liner lock, and it's locking up at about 40%. It's kind of hard to see the way this liner lock is designed, but it's locking up at about 40%. Super strong. No blade play up and down. No lock rock to speak of. Side to side, it's got a little bit of wiggle. There is a little bit of side to side, but not enough to really concern me. And this has visited a number of people. And I've said this on most of the knives that I've reviewed from Valtac, in that I was, I think, the last person to get these. So, tighten on the pivot a little bit, and that would probably go away altogether. But I tested it and used it in the condition in which I received it. So that's what we're looking at as far as the handle is concerned. You do not have a lanyard hole. So if you're a lanyard person, then, that's just kind of what it is. No way to run a lanyard. The clip, as I mentioned, is for tip-up, right or left-handed carry. And I think it's a pretty terrible pocket clip, honestly. The design's not good. The retention's not fantastic. It's pretty slick, and I just don't like it. I do not like the pocket clip. The action on this guy is pretty darn good. It's really smooth. The one problem I have with the action, or I should say the deployment, is the flipper tab. It's got a shape to it that's a little odd compared to, I guess, the average flipper, in that it's pretty flat. And so you can kind of just push it straight in, or you can kind of light switch it and pull down on it. but you just don't get that real super snappy flipping action. It's just a little slower, I guess. Throw in a little bit of wrist flick, and it comes out nice and fast. But just not my preference. I think the design there could have been done a little better. There is some jimping on that flipper tab, which is very necessary for a tab shaped such as this. So that's what we're looking at as far as deployment and your action. It's very smooth, opening and closing, and our centering is maybe a hair, like a literal human hair off to the left, but almost dead perfect. So pretty decent there. I think overall with this guy, you know, the ergonomics are pretty good. It's comfortable, but again, those kind of 90-degree transitions, I think they missed an opportunity to kind of finish this knife the way that I think they should have. So not crazy about that. Is it uncomfortable? No, it's not uncomfortable. For EDC, is it going to cause you any issues? Probably not. It's just one of those things that I like to point out for a knife that comes in at around $77. I think that they should have kind of chamfered these a little bit to make it a little more comfy, but it's not uncomfortable. The texture on the G10 is great, as I mentioned. There's no texturing on the liner lock itself, which is fine. You know, it's easy to get in there and disengage, so really no issues with that. There's a little bit of texturing on the underside here, which doesn't really serve any purpose for me. And there's no jimping, so that is what it is. But it feels secure in the hand. I don't feel like it's going anywhere. Would I like to see a little bit of jimping? Probably. That's my preference. Generally speaking, to have a little bit of jimping, but it's not an issue not having it. Just a preference thing. So that's what we're talking about as far as texture. As I mentioned, ergonomically, it's fine. It's not the most ergonomic design in the world. It's going to depend on hand size. For my hand, it actually works pretty well in that my two forefingers, I don't have two forefingers. I have one forefinger and a middle finger. That would have been a better way of saying it. They kind of fit into this first group here, and then my other two fingers kind of land there. It's totally usable for EDC. So I don't think it's really much to complain about. It's just those transitions that I think could have been refined a little more than they were. Overall, what are my thoughts? I think it's a good knife. I think it performed really well in cardboard. My cardboard testing where I cut through probably, I don't know, maybe 40 linear feet of cardboard. It just smoked through it. I mean, it did a really nice job. It's a flat grind, and it had no problems. The edge held up really well. It's still super, super sharp. Got a little bit of paper here left over from another video. We'll do a little cut test. That VG10 is really well done. Really, really well done. So no complaints with the performance. For EDC, it's going to do everything you're going to want it to do. It's going to open your boxes, cut your apples, you know, cut your steak, whatever. It's not my favorite design. Just as far as the overall kind of shape and style, it wouldn't be my first choice, but it's a good knife. It performed the way I would expect it to. So yeah, that sharpening choil is nice too, if I didn't mention that. It's got a nice purposeful sharpening choil, which is going to make that much easier to resharpen. So yeah, that is the Kizer Velox 2, the G10 and VG10 flipper, which again, it was very refreshing for me to get this knife in my hand and not have another G10 and D2 knife to review, because it seems like that's kind of all that I've been reviewing lately, or at least that's a lot of what's coming out of China as far as these more budget-friendly knives are concerned. And as far as price, you know, a Spyderco Delica, for example, is going to be around the same price with the same blade steel and a different handle material, so I don't think the price is unfair for what you're getting. So if this is your style, if this speaks to you based on its shape, its aesthetics, you definitely can't go wrong. It's not a bad knife whatsoever. Would I buy one? Probably not. It's just not my style. But a very good performer. It performed quite well. So thanks again to Valtech for providing it. I really do appreciate that. Thank you all so much for watching. I very, very much appreciate that. And I will talk to you soon.